Good morning and welcome to Lady Australasia Power. My name is Hazel Herrington and I'm the founder of Herrington Publications Worldwide. We're so excited to have you joining us today as we discuss women, politics, decision-making, and peace building. We have an amazing lineup of change makers, history makers, and barrier breakers joining us today. We have incredible women from all around the world, from Australia, United States of America, Kuwait, to name a few, that will be joining us, including my two co-hosts, Sparsh Raj and Vijay Stravis. Let me tell you, this is going to be a powerful, packed session from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. I'd like to introduce our first panelist. Our first panelist is Shirley Brunswick, and she is from the United States of America and the Chief Operating Officer of the Space Foundation. Good morning, Shirley.
Well, good morning and good evening from Colorado Springs. It's such an honor to be joining you. And thank you so much for inviting me to this important, powerful discussion about women in politics and abilities to increase diversity in those decision-making roles.
Thank you so much, Shirley. We look forward to hearing from you soon. Our next panelist is Helen Baker from Australia. Helen, good morning.
Good morning, Hazel, and good morning, everyone around the world. Looking forward to this event, particularly here to represent the young people of the world. So I'm very excited. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Helen. We're excited to have you on this platform. And then the third panelist that will be speaking today is Ella Staniak. She's supposed to be speaking in the third session, but she's ready to go as we wait for the other panelists that are having technological problems at the moment. Ella, good morning, and how are you this morning?
Good morning, Hazel. Good morning, Hazel's team. Good morning, world. Good evening. Hazel, first of all, I wish to acknowledge you and your team for putting this conference together. What an incredible initiative. And I am really excited to be a part of this discussion. Thank you for having me.
It is a pleasure for you to be joining us today. Ladies and gentlemen, joining me today as well are my two co-hosts. First, I'd like to introduce Vijay Stravis. Vijay, good morning.
Good morning, all. Good morning to the world. Thanks a lot, Hazel, for the opportunity. Thank you.
It's a pleasure having you, Vijay. Vijay and I are partnering on a lot of projects, and he's an amazing men leader who loves to empower, equip women to become economically independent and wholly sufficient. Ladies and gentlemen, as we are discussing women, politics, decision-making, it is important to have the support of men leaders. As Kofi Annan said, and I reiterate, that the most powerful ingredient to peace building is the participation of women. I can also remind you of the former president, Mr. Carter. He also said that countries that engage women are less likely to go to war, especially those countries that promote gender equality. So I'll leave that with you gentlemen that are watching. We need your support. And we look forward to having more support globally, even though we do agree that strides have been made in the empowerment of women. So we're looking forward to that. Now, before we go ahead and invite the speakers to speak, I'd just like to discuss a few important facts that have come across upon all the platforms globally and the challenges that we are facing as women in positions of leadership. It is a well-known fact that a lot of women in positions of leadership are not being heard. A lot of women are being promoted sometimes and they're not even fit for those positions. This discussion is not about wanting women to be put in positions of power that don't deserve it. This is for women that do deserve it. And the second thing is that a lot of women are facing a lot of problems when it comes to domestic violence. Up to 4 million women disappear annually, and this is a problem. Women are affected by conflict and violence globally. It is shocking to hear that violence against women is something that women have faced drastically, more than all the four wars globally. Now, as we speak today, we'd like to encourage all the leaders around the world to understand that we're not raising up our voices so that we can just be at the negotiating table just to prove a fact and for statistics. We want to be there because we deserve to be there. Thank you. Right. Okay, so we're going to go ahead with our discussion with our first panelist, Shelley Brunswick. Like I said, Shelley is the Chief Operating Officer for the Space Foundation. Shelley, before your session starts, would you like to just tell us more about yourself and then go ahead and start your session?
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much again for this opportunity. And it's always a privilege to be able to share my journey and story and hopefully create a role model for the next generation. So for all your listeners who may not know my background, I started in the U.S. Air Force right out of high school, enlisted, was a personnel specialist and went to school at night so I could earn my degree, and eventually became an officer in the U.S. Air Force. And I was a space project manager, which led me on my career to where I am here today at Space Foundation as the Chief Operating Officer. So again, it's an honor to be part of this esteemed group of discussion panelists to look at how do we bring inclusion and diversity to the table so that all citizens are represented in policy making. So thank you, Hazel. What I wanted to share was at Space Foundation, we have a 5-step workforce development roadmap that leads to breaking down many of the barriers we see. And that 5-step is awareness, access, training, connecting, and mentoring. So today's event is a prime example of awareness. We need to be bringing awareness that we want more diversity and inclusion of women and others to come to the table, to be part of decision-making, of policy-making, legislation, and activities of diplomacy. So that this is a great example of how do we build awareness. Then we all need to work together to create that access point. What are some opportunities to bring women and diversity in to the policy-making decisions? Are there local activities? Are there national organizations? Are there international? Many times we do require some sorts of training about legislation, policymaking, diplomacy. And then of course, it's always a lot about networking, building your network, finding other like-minded like you to build your network and expand your abilities around the world, similar to what we're doing today on this wonderful event. And then the last step is the mentoring. And many times a good mentor can break down those other barriers for awareness, access, training, and connecting. And I am a mentor for many organizations. I believe in them. They're highly helpful. And you should always look for several types of mentors as you're looking to create a career in policy or diplomacy or be a policy decision maker. And those can be mentors, coaches, and champions. Many times you can look at them different ways. So when you think about wanting to focus in on one skill set, you can think about a mentor who can help you become good in that one skill set. If you want to become good as a general leader, an executive thought leader, and grow, you may want to look for a coach, just like a coach of a baseball team, wider perspective in developing the team. And then the next step is to look for champions, those individuals that can help place you in the next steps in your career. So always be looking for mentors, champions, and coaches. And again, today's event is a wonderful opportunity to create awareness and access and networking and mentoring. So I want to thank you, Hazel, and your amazing team for making today possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelley. What a powerful, powerful message that you sent today. Shelley, I just wanted to ask you a question. What advice can you give the future female leaders, that are just coming up in their 20s, in their 30s?
That's an excellent question. Well, I think what we've learned during this year of COVID is persistence. Don't give up. resiliency, continue on. So what I share with your audience that may just be coming into the policy making and diplomacy area is there are going to be good days and bad days. But the question you ask yourself every day is, am I making a difference? Am I having an impact? Even if it's a small amount, each day, am I moving the needle forward to create more opportunity for all? And if your answer is yes, then don't give up. Continue on, persevere, because we all have had, all of us on this panel today have had highs and lows in our career, but the one thing we all share is we didn't give up, and we encourage you not to as well. And when I shared with you, find those mentors, create those networks, because those are the individuals that will create the safety net for you on those days that don't turn out quite the way you'd like. And they will help you look at the lessons that you learn from those days, because every good day you learn something, but on the bad days you learn something even more. So take those lessons, build those in your toolkit, and persevere on, because tomorrow will be a better day, and you're going to create access and opportunity for the next generation. So thank you, Hazel.
Thank you so much, Shelley. You've been amazing, and you're looking great, by the way. I love your jacket. Yeah. So
Thank you so much.
So where can people get in touch with you, Shelley, to collaborate?
Wonderful. Well, as you know, I love to collaborate, and one of my favorite tools is LinkedIn. That's how we met. So please check out LinkedIn. You can follow me there, or else also email me there. I do answer emails. And in the next week or two, I will be launching the Shelley Brunswick website. So please stand by. That will be coming live shortly. And for those of you who are planning to travel to Dubai Expo, the 17th through the 24th, I will be speaking at Dubai Expo for Space Week. So I hope for your global audience that might be coming in person, I will get the opportunity to meet you, and we can have a cup of coffee, and together we can find solutions to solve many of the world's challenges.
Thank you so much, Shelley. It's a pleasure having
Thank
you
you.
today. Thank you. Okay, and next we have our guest of honor, Dr. Ingrid Vasilio, who's here with us today and ready to share with us her views on women politics, decision-making, and peace building. So this means what we will have is that for the third session, we will still continue to have Ella Staniak on the third session.
Thank you.
Dr. Ingrid.
Can you
Good
hear
morning.
me well?
Yes,
How
I can
are
hear you. Very well, very well. I'm just trying to put you on the screen, so just bear with me. I can see you. There you are. Awesome.
Thank you for inviting me. It's a great honor to have an opportunity to share some insights and to be in such wonderful, great speaker lineup you have today. So I wanted to congratulate you for all the effort to put together this amazing event. And I hope we can all learn from each other.
Yes, absolutely. You're absolutely right, Dr. Ingrid. We are so inspired by all the work that you've done. So would you like to just start giving us a brief profile of yourself and how you started your leadership role?
Sure, thank you for the opportunity. I started my career in academia, so I have a quite long and winding road, first as a clinician, researcher, and then I focused after completing my executive MBA, a lot of healthcare administration, because I wanted to be able to impact more lives. And I learned a lot. It was also difficult, but it opened up new opportunities. And I was able to meet, like Shelley said, mentors and learn from other people's mistakes, and also maybe share lessons learned with other mentees that I had an opportunity to interact with. And then over the last few years, I've come to grow very fond of emerging technologies, and innovation, as well as disruptive strategy has been a passion of mine. As you know, I also strongly believe in ethics and have been a strong and vocal advocate for digital ethics, because I very much want to convey the message that although we embrace emerging technologies, and I would like to encourage everybody to embrace innovation, we must not forget that applied ethics is very important. And without that, we can have only negative consequences. So I would say my leadership has been a complement to all the other hard work. And I want to always encourage all young women and men to not forget that being a good role model for young generations is very important, in my opinion. So that's just a brief synopsis.
Thank you, Dr. Ingrid. So I'm just going to go ahead and ask you the first question today. Women are generally excluded from political decision-making processes, and women's contribution to peace processes are often underemphasized or ignored in Australasia. The question is, does it really matter if women are not present at the negotiating table?
I think it matters a lot, but I do believe that in order to be present at the negotiating table, we must prepare many years in advance. So it is my strong opinion that only by preparing with an educational precursor for many years, we can, when we're actually at the table, impact change. The second very important aspect that I believe in is that we must have approach that I describe as power dynamics. You have the need for a strategic approach. You can't just, when you're finally at the table, want to impact change and have a strong voice and people listen to you. So it takes a lot of preparation and a lot of relationship building way in advance, in my experience. The third one is I do believe that it's important to have a complex portfolio of negotiation tactics. Without that, I don't think even if we're at the table, we can actually achieve the results we aim for. So I do think that it's very important to have not only the mentors we mentioned, but also study some of the tools that are necessary when you want to affect change in complicated situations, such as the ones you mentioned. I also would like to share that I think having a mindset that embeds cultural sensitivity is also essential. When we meet people around the world and would like to engage in political decision making, being culturally sensitive in our mediation and negotiation can have a very big role. So these are some of my initial thoughts, but definitely I think we must be at the table, we should be at the table, and I hope we will be at the table. I think we can all contribute to that.
Absolutely. It's a sad situation when we have only 4% of women that have actually signed peace agreements, and only one that has actually gone through with Miriam Ferreira. So, it's a sad situation when you look at the statistics, and we only have 10% women that are negotiating globally on peace negotiations. Which leads me to my second question, Dr. Ingrid. Cultural stereotypes remain and are one major obstacle to gender equality and thus women's inclusion in decision-making. What can be done to break down such attitudes?
Well, again, I think we need a comprehensive approach. I've been a big advocate for early education. I think it's very difficult later on in life to change something that has been instilled in you for 20 or 30 years. So I'm a big believer in starting this type of education in young women and men in childhood, already almost preschool level, I would say, and all the way to postgraduate education or professional training. I also think it's essential to think holistically and understand that by having a global approach and being aware of some of the ecological and technological and all other political aspects that you mentioned gives you additional tools and techniques and tactics to affect this change. And I think if we don't teach women early on to use some of those tools, they can't be as effective. So I do encourage and support all our efforts for women that are already in professional environments, absolutely. But my wish is for us to start way earlier, and that for our whole society to have a very different approach towards encouraging women. The other element that I would love to share, and that's just based on my own experience, is that encouraging integrity, authenticity, and resilience in young women is also very important. We can't copy other people. You have to find your own path and your own approach that's going to be unique to your personality, to your culture, to your values, to your background that you grew up with, to your team's expectations. Without that, it's not going to be successful, because you can study as much as you want or try to mirror someone else's behavior. You must have your own approach to solving the new problems that you're faced with.
Absolutely. Actually, I agree with that. There's a problem that we have with most youth that are rising up is that it's the copy syndrome and lack of innovation, even when it comes to business strategy. So what advice can you give to the future women leaders?
I would definitely advise them to get a very solid professional background. Being a leader and excellent in something that you believe in passionately is very important, so that you can have that expertise. The second thing is, as some of you know, I'm a big passionate believer in the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And I truly believe that having a global approach and trying to impact change through all the SDGs can actually help you in whatever you try to do, because it's not just because United Nations set that agenda. I truly believe that those are the levers and the pathways how you can actually achieve something long-term in whatever field you're in. It doesn't matter what discipline or what industry. So I would encourage women to aim for excellence. I don't think it's okay to just say, just try your best. I think you should always try to aim for excellence. That's really important. The second one is to not let anybody tell you no, or that you think too big. Always follow your dreams and work very hard to achieve them. I am a very good example. I've been told no so many times since age 6. Almost everything I wanted to do, everybody always told me that's impossible, don't even try, you have no chance, why would you do that? Every single thing I did. So I would encourage them to not listen to that, as long as they have a solid background, study hard, work hard, get the mentorship that Shelley mentioned, and the coaching. There's so much resource available. So seek the right guides in your life and people that believe in you, and then you can achieve your dreams.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ingrid, for your amazing speech. And thank you so much for saying yes to empowering women to become the leaders that they were born to be. Now, moving on, thank you so much. We're going to move on to our next panelist, Helen Baker. And before we do that, I'd like to introduce Spash Gaj, who will be taking on the second session. Spash, are you there?
Yeah, I'll be joining from a different link, right?
Yes, you will be. You will be. Yeah. How are you today?
I'm really good. Thanks for asking.
Awesome. All right. So we will catch up with you a bit later. And now we're going to go. Yeah, we're going to have Helen Baker from Australia joining us. Helen, good morning.
Good morning, Hazel. Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here. Thanks so much again for hosting me.
Awesome. All right. I'm just going to add you there to the spotlight. I've got Dr. Ingrid there joining you. The amazing woman. You're looking very lovely today, Helen, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Trying to fit in with the mood.
Yeah. And we're so excited to have you joining us today, coming from Australia. You obviously know this topic better than anybody else when it comes to women, Australian women. Tell us more about yourself before I ask you your question.
Where do I start? So I'm the founder of a social enterprise called Spill the Beans, which is essentially like a TED Talks for kids by kids. previously at Deloitte in strategy and growth. And I actually quit my corporate job at Deloitte a couple of years ago to set up Spill the Beans to help empower young people to use their voice in business, in the boardroom, in schools, and at the dinner table. So my purpose, my passion, my inspiration is really about empowering our future generation.
Oh, awesome. I love the work that you're doing with the youth. And Helen is, you know, she tells an amazing story of her journey to Australia. Before I ask you a question, can you just share a little bit about that? Because it is important for people to know that it doesn't matter where you come from, but as long as you strive to succeed and you keep pushing for your goals, you can do anything.
Absolutely. I really believe in the art of the impossible. And I was born in the Philippines and adopted into an Australian family from a very young age. I was 13 months old when I came out to Australia. And the reason I was given up for adoption was because my mother was dying at the time and my father couldn't afford to keep me. And I was one of 9 children, and 2 of them had already passed away from malnutrition. So my circumstances were very fortunate, I guess, in that plucked out of an orphanage in the Philippines and into an incredible Australian family. But also growing up in a small country town in Australia, in Gippsland in Victoria, I was exposed to a lot of racism. And I guess overcoming this adversity and dealing with this adversity from a very young age has, is what drives me to create opportunities for children.
Oh, thank you. And so you've done amazing work in Australia. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, Helen, your question. Women are largely marginalized from the political sphere due to discriminatory law, practices, and stereotypes. How can women overcome these obstacles?
Yeah, so I believe if we are to overcome these obstacles, particularly that of stereotyping and marginalization, we really do need to start at the grassroots. We need to educate, as Dr. Ingrid mentioned previously, we need to educate our future generation. And we need to start having these conversations from a very young age. And conversations, as I mentioned, at the dinner table, conversations in schools, in universities, conversations in business at the start of a young person's career. So I very much believe that it is from an early age. And our behaviour is influenced so much from an early age. So we need to teach our children how to become more aware of their inner thoughts and these biases and these, overcoming these stereotypes, which can affect our beliefs and our actions.
Oh, thank you so much, Helen. And, it's so amazing that Australia is the second country when it comes to empowering immigrant women. And I'm from Zimbabwe originally, and I cannot tell you how Australia has empowered me. I've been educated here, spoken on massive platforms, and I'm so grateful. It was the best decision I ever made. So I want to ask you, what advice would you give, to the women in the Philippines that are discouraged, demotivated? Sometimes they've got laws that restrict them, as women to take on leadership roles. What is your advice to them?
That's a really good question. I've never been asked that question before. I would certainly encourage them to, if I was in the Philippines, for example, to educate themselves around this topic and to educate. There are so many means that we can be educated these days, whether it's YouTube, whether it's online learning, and there are so many opportunities for these women to have exposure to this education, and it's free. A lot of it is free. I would seriously recommend that they go online and learn something. And once you've actually learned a skill, it could be anything. It could be coding, for example. You can jump online and learn these things for free and learn to educate yourself, and then you can educate others. And it really is, again, going back to my passion for empowering young people. Then you have the opportunity, once you are educated yourself, you can then educate others and empower others. So that would be my recommendation.
Thank you so much, Helen. how can people get in touch with you?
They can get in touch with me on our website, spillthebeans.events, or Instagram at spillthebeans.events, or on LinkedIn. You can follow me, Helen Baker, on LinkedIn as well.
Thank you so much, Helen. It's been fantastic having you here on the Lady Australasia Women, Politics, Decision-Making, and Peace Building. And I look forward to working with you soon. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me.
It's been a pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to send a question to any one of our panelists and even the guest of honor, please send it through the chat. We'd like to hear more from you. And I'd like to ask Dr. Ingrid to just come and close up the session with a last message on how people can get in touch with her, and a last message to all those that are watching, especially when post COVID-19. Dr. Ingrid, what advice can you give us?
Thank you. I think particularly in the post-pandemic era, we hopefully have learned our lesson as a society that we must collaborate in order to prevent future either pandemics or other crises, because we can face other crises in the future. And I think what has become evident is that only by interdisciplinary, cross-disciplinary collaborations amongst all stakeholders, we can actually not only improve global population health, but many other things that we realized during this pandemic, such as the economy, the financial divide, the digital divide, the educational divide. And of course, women and children have been disproportionately affected in the pandemic. So I think it accentuated even more how much work we have to do. And last but not least, I would encourage everybody to please collaborate and try to attain the United Nations sustainable goals, because we've lost about 36 years, as several reports have highlighted. 36 years of hard work have been lost during this pandemic, and that's just an estimate. So only if we all care about this and try our very best to not only empower women, but also, like we highlighted today, improve the financial inclusion efforts, the educational efforts, the climate efforts, we can all help future generations. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I will ask each panelist just to give us a last message, and we sign off from Shelley, and then we will have, well, Shelley, you can just close off.
Well, wonderful. Well, thank you again so much. And I'm so honored to be here. And again, this is really about creating access and opportunity for all. There is a place for everyone, and women and diversity, as we look at policymaking, and as it's been highlighted by numerous keynotes and guests tonight, that by bringing everyone to the table, we can create better solutions. We can solve many of the challenges we're facing today on planet Earth, and then we can work forward together in unity. So I look forward to collaborating with others, because this is a hot topic. One individual may not be able to change the world, but one individual working with other individuals around the world, we can create the change that we want to see in the world. And I look forward to partnering with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shelley. Okay, so what I've done is that I've now shared in the chat the next session, second session's meeting ID and password. We are now going to end the session. Thank you so much to all the speakers. I'll just give you some time to get those details, those that are watching, the viewers. To the other speakers, for those that have attended the session, you're more than welcome to attend the first session and support the others. It has been an amazing session. Thank you so much for those that have gotten up early in the morning, late at night. This is what women empowerment is all about. We rise by lifting others. Thank you so much. You're free to sign out. I will just be here just for 5 minutes for those of you that haven't seen that meeting ID and passcode. And we will then close afterwards, and the recording stops now. Thank you very much, and see you at the second session.